A reference.
Yeah, and then once the interview process is over and I've made the hire, I delete these, whether I hire you or don't, because I don't have any use for them. So, thank you for that.
Mhm.
Okay, so yeah, I want to start by saying again, take a deep breath, relax. The fact that you're here in the technically the third interview, if you count the first short one, I already love you. I already think you're great. Um, it's just like I said, more at this point, narrowing down to best fit. So next step will be shadowing next week if we move forward, and we'll talk about that a little more at the end. So anyway, I want to first start with the skills assessment because I know I had you do that and then we kind of ran out of time, so we didn't talk about it much last time. So thanks for doing this. It helps. And for the most part, with a couple of exceptions, like if you were really bad at like administration, like that's a big part of the job, or if you were really bad at like if you gave yourself a one on customer service or something, that would be an exception. But for the most part, these are just it just gives me an idea of what your skills are.
Right.
Sales, yeah, sales, and this is something I'm glad this is coming up too. Sales is not a formal part of the job.
Mhm.
Um, if you want to increase your income and like through commission, then it's an optional part, but it's not required. Now, that being said, I've always said like I would hope somebody in this position would so believe in what we do that they would want to talk about it. And,
Right.
but there's a difference between, talking to friends and neighbors versus like going out and actually going to events and things like that.
Right.
So there's no requirement in terms of sales. Um, Writing copy. So copywriting is a little bit different than like the most of the writing we do, but copywriting, this is really primarily copywriting refers to like writing professional content. You don't have to write any like health content or anything like that. It's more like drafting emails for sales and promotions or
Okay.
things like that. The good thing is, I would say probably at least 75% of that, maybe a little more, we have templates for. So like if we're gonna bring out a new product or we're gonna do run a sale, a lot of times we'll use the template from the sale that we brought out last year at this time or whatever. So you're still tweaking it and like having to like read it and maybe edit a little bit, but it's mostly like you're not starting from a blank page.
Well, that's not terrible. Then I'm not too worried about that. I mean, that's kind of how we are with our report writing. There's things that need to be changed and
Yeah.
more details added, but
Yeah.
that makes
Are the
sense.
reports that you're doing like if there's an incident, or is it just like are you doing like daily reports no matter what? What does that look like?
Um, Mostly with incidents. Like for example, we had a guy who had a seizure and he,
Mm.
fell on the floor last night, and I needed to be as specific and as detailed as possible. So that's not something we generally have like a standard form that we fill out. So I had to go in and write all of it, who was there, when did it occur,
Mm.
when did we wrap it up, things like that.
Okay. And then just out of curiosity, is anybody looking at those or editing those? Or are those just like tucked away for legal purposes in case something happens?
It is for legal purposes. A lot of times they do have lawyers that will go in and that's their job is to figure out a way to get money for people. So they see it and they
Yeah.
will sit and study it.
You got to be careful. Every word matters.
Yeah.
Yeah. So most of the copy we're doing is not doesn't have legal implications, although there is a little bit of as a naturopath as opposed to a medical doctor, which I'm not. We can't treat, cure, or diagnose anything, so we do have to like dance around that a little bit. But
Yeah.
typically, like I said, it's more sales, promotions, announcements, new products, things like that. Proofreading and editing is really important. Being detail oriented is key because the not only like if I write a blog, you need to proofread it. If you draft an email, I will proofread it so that we're kind
Mhm.
of a check and balance. The last thing you want from a professional standpoint is to put out a social media post or an email to your whole list that has a typo in it.
Yeah,
And it can happen, but it's not ideal.
right. Funny, my husband and I will sit and we're like, did they not proofread this? Like these, all these mistakes.
Yeah. Well, and if you're a detail-oriented person, it jumps out at you. You're like,
Yeah,
oh dear, wow, okay. Especially if you see it in a book or something.
right.
Hmm. Okay, so tech, you gave yourself a 4. Yeah, software, yeah, that's pretty. Our software's pretty straightforward. There'll be training, so every software has a learning curve. Apple computer use, um, yes, we do use an Apple computer. The systems, the way Apple does things, you're like if you have an iPhone, an iPad, a MacBook Pro, any of that, they're all similar, but there is a little bit of a learning curve there. So this is not a deal breaker, but it might slow you down a little bit. So if you have any opportunity to brush up on Apple computer use, or if you have somebody's iPad you can play with, that could be helpful.
Okay. Well,
Um,
we just got one, so I
oh,
mean that
nice.
kind of works out.
Perfect. Um, yeah, and I like if you're relatively tech savvy, like you'll pick up on it quick. But I know when I first got mine after using a PC for a long time, I got my I think it's probably been 12, 10 or 12 years ago now. It was like at first I was like, okay, I can't even copy and paste. Like everything took a minute. You have to look it up. And so yeah, it definitely slowed me down, but you'll pick up quick. Public speaking, not typically a formal part of the job, but I ask this because I've had staff in the past who loved it. And like if I'm speaking at an event, my one person, Cassie, she used to really enjoy public speaking. So she loved to like introduce me and kind of get the like audience engaged and stuff like that. My previous person absolutely hated it. She's like, I'd rather just you kill me than have me have to do any public speaking. So it's just like if you love it as much as I can, I want to give those opportunities.
Right.
If you're like, please don't, it won't be good for me or you. I like to know that. Um, Customer service, good. Event hosting, typically this is sometimes like you had talked about for the bodybuilding shows, typically it would be a booth, but more often it's like small events in the community.
Okay.
Um, marketing, this is another one that the marketing that you do, it's not really a formal part of the job. It will be more through like promoting, but under my leadership.
Okay.
Social media. Yeah, did you do when you said you used it to advertise your bodybuilding business,
Yes.
were you like running Facebook ads or were you just like putting posts up to
It
promote?
was more just the posts. It wasn't like paying to run the ads or anything like that. I just kept active with it so that it kept updated.
Did that, yeah. Natalie, did you bring in clients from that?
I did.
Nice.
A lot
And
of it was word of mouth, and there were clients that were out of state too.
yeah, good. Okay. Yeah, if you do it right, social media, like it's kind of a double-edged sword for me. I think from a social standpoint, it's not ideal, but from a business standpoint, I mean, it's where people are at. So it is
Absolutely.
something we can't ignore. I'll say it that way.
It's true.
Leading and following. This is really important. Leading, I say this because um in this role, you are definitely leading like clients and things like that. But more than that, there's a lot of self-leadership. There's a
Mhm.
hundred things to do. They all need to be done. And you have to like manage your time. Well, I mean, there's a lot of training on the front end, but once you're trained, the expectation is that like you're managing your time and getting things done and having to, kind of navigate what needs to be done when. But talk to me about you gave yourself a 3 on following slash support. Um, Tell me why a 3.
Because there's always room for improvement. I mean, every personality you have to kind of get to know, figure out what their expectations are, and then kind of manipulate how your mind and how you function make that meld. So
Mhm.
I kind of look at it as you're not always going to do exactly what someone wants you to do until you know what your plan is.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and the key here is, like I said, this is like two sides of the same coin. The leadership is a big part of this because you're kind of running the clinic under my leadership for sure. But you're also my assistant and supporting me, and it's a huge part of the job in terms of like guarding my time. So leadership has to be there, but the ability to like follow and sort of take direction is really key as well.
Yeah, I don't feel that that's an issue. I just want, I didn't want to score out the higher end because I feel like you can't ever different. I have, superiors, excuse me, that, they have specialists and some are micromanagers and that's fine. And I can handle that. And some, they're like, this is what I expect. And they give you the umbrella and you kind of figure it out on your own too.
Yeah, and I would say that's a good way to put it. I would say I'm somewhere in between. I'm not a micromanager. I actually hate that. But there is an expectation of excellence that we want to hold to. So it's not like do this however you want.
Hmm.
But also there's definitely room to add if there's a better way or if there's something where you're like, okay, could we try this? Like I'm definitely up to talk about that.
Right.
Administration, yeah, administration and multitasking kind of go together, and I'm glad those are high because those are big parts of the job. Um, yeah, okay, so good. Okay. Um, I just wanted to run through that. I kind of like to like talk through that out loud in case there's any questions, but let's jump into some questions. Tell me, Natalie, who are your mentors and why?
My mother always been a fun for me. She raised four children. My dad was out to sea a lot,
Mm,
and she just was a good, not only in how I parent now, but her role model as um, being nurturing, taking the time to listen, her dreams and goals as far as I love that she takes care of herself and she's very meticulous about how she does that from a natural and organic way. Um, and I can go to her about anything, whether it's, I cut myself, I've got this weird rash. What do you think? Or and she's like, well, I don't necessarily know all the details, but let me see what I can find out. That let me see what I can figure out mentality has been something that I've always kind of taken in, and I love that.
good. Anyone else come to mind?
Um, I mean, my we didn't have a lot growing up, so my dad would be the other one. He's
Mm,
very structured, very strict. He
mhm.
moved around every 2.5, 3 years, so it was really hard to form those like mentor type relationships.
Yeah.
So my family was it.
Yeah. Was he Army, Navy? What branch?
Navy. He did
Navy.
32 years in the Navy.
Wow.
Hmm.
Okay, cool. And then in thinking about conflict, how you handle conflict. Now, conflict doesn't have to mean like full on war, big fight with somebody. It can be something very small. Um, but talk to me like sort of generally speaking, how you think about how do you think about conflict, how you handle conflict. Talk to me about that.
And I mean, in the workplace, there's not, oh, we're not always going to see eye to eye. And someone might be frustrated with me, and I may not know that. So a lot of times, if I'm sensing, because I can pick up on things with people's personalities changes and things like that, I'll just say, hey, what's going on? Try and talk through it. Something feels different. Did I do something to upset you? Can we talk about it? Or, let's work through it together. If it's personal conflict, I'll write things out and then just
Did you
kind
say
of
write? Did you say write things out? Mm.
I write it out, kind of journal it, see, read about it in the Bible if there's a scripture that I can apply it to. So it just depends on the conflict in and of itself.
Yeah. Yeah, beautiful. Okay, so Natalie, let's camp there for just a second. So,
Mm-hmm.
like, your daughter or your husband or somebody comes at you and like you're like, bad, like there's a rub, whatever it is.
Yes.
Are you literally like, give me a minute, I need to go journal?
Not always. I'll address it by, okay, I feel a little threatened by it, depending on how they come at me. It
Yeah.
depends. If my
Yeah.
husband comes at me yelling, well, okay, well, what did I do? I'm kind of taken back by it. Um, okay, you're upsetting me right now. I'm pretty good about verbalizing, hey, what you're doing or how you're behaving is not okay.
Hmm.
I'll make it out, put it out there
Hmm.
first. And if it seems like if I it causes an escalation in their behavior, then I'm like, let's put a pin in it and we'll come back and talk about it when we're calm.
Yep. And then typically, do you initiate the coming back and talking about it? Or
I
is
try
it,
to read the room first,
yeah,
and then I'm like,
look
what do
for
you
the
think
time?
about
Mhm.
talking now?
Yeah, and I think this is important. And some of these questions, by the way, are as much more than anything, just like getting to know you questions. As I said the other day when we met, there's not a lot of be like angry customers or stuff like that's super, super rare. If that happens
Yeah.
once every few years, it's a thing. But it is important because sometimes conflict is like, let's say I don't know, you just did something wrong. We need to be able to talk about it.
Hmm.
And I'm a very big fan, as you've probably gathered by now, of like, let's just shoot straight and have an adult conversation.
Yes.
Um, and most of the time, some would call that conflict. Some people that's really freaks them out, right? Like to be like, let's just put it right on the table and say, hey, this email, that's not what we talked about, or this didn't happen the right way, or whatever. Um, to me, I feel like it's a helpful, honest way to deal with it, as long as, but there doesn't have to be all the emotional charge. I guess that's what
Right.
I'm saying. And I've had people, everyone from the one I mentioned in the video where I told her something and she's like, oh my gosh, thank you. Like, I can't
Mhm.
want to do a good job and I can't do a good job if you don't give me that feedback. I also had somebody, this was a very long time ago when I first started. If I said anything, she would like go in the bathroom and cry. And not to be insensitive, but I'm like, we have to be able to have a conversation. Like if
Yeah.
something's not working or something happened or, like we got to be able to shoot straight and talk about it. So that's a little bit of where that's coming from.
Yeah.
Um, tell me,
Get it.
sorry, go ahead.
No, no, I was just saying I can respect that and I get it. I'm more about let's hash this out. How can we make this work better for
Yeah.
both of us?
Yeah, most of the time, like I said, I think people appreciate it because I'm definitely a what you see is what you get. You don't ever have to wonder, like, oh, is she mad at me? Like, no, if there's an issue, we'll talk about it. And if we're
Yep.
not talking about it, it's not an issue,
Yep.
right?
How I am.
So yeah, I think that level of transparency is really valuable.
Yeah.
Talk to me about overwhelm. No matter how much we try to expand our capacity to take things on, sometimes we get overwhelmed. What overwhelms you, and what do you do when you get overwhelmed?
Mm, I've had that more recently than not, trying to balance home and work life right now.
Yeah.
So, um, for me, I, I go to my go-to, my mom. I kind of talk it out with her, but I have definitely found myself having to take the smaller steps in those moments and okay, where do we go what's the most important thing to handle first? Right now, I got to address this and we can check that off the list, move on to the next thing and kind of try and allow my brain to separate it a little bit
Mhm.
because I know feeling overwhelmed is just kind of clustering everything together in one big huge issue and really it's just a bunch of small ones that compounded.
Yep. So figuring out the next baby step and
Mm,
taking that, yeah, good. Yeah, and sometimes, one of the things that I teach a lot, and this is where my own kind of coaching and mentoring comes out, but is just the importance when the more stress you have, and it doesn't matter where it's coming from. I mean, it matters to some degree, but whether it's from too much exercise, not enough sleep, working too much, fighting with a spouse, whatever it is, um, the more you have, the more self-care you need.
mhm.
Really key. And that's hard in a situation like yours when you're working these long shifts into the night and you're feel like you're missing stuff and, whatever. But it is so important, maybe even more important during times like that to really take that time for yourself.
Mm.
What do you see as your biggest obstacle in doing great in this position from what you know so far?
Mm. I think my biggest thing is that I always expect perfection from myself.
Mm.
So I've got to learn to give myself a little bit of grace and knowing that this is not completely new to me because that's kind of how I was raised.
Yeah.
But that I'm not going to know everything right away and that, it's going to take me time to learn certain things.
Mhm. And what if I told you I can guarantee you're going to make mistakes?
I would expect that. I mean, I laugh about it, but I would expect that. I mean, no one's perfect. I
Yeah.
know that. So,
And when you, and I'm not like, you probably get this a lot, and this is maybe maybe it's an unfair, like you had a military dad, right?
yeah,
So, like, there's a way to do things, right?
yeah.
And there's this balance where you want to have a high expectation, and also probably like you have two girls, right? Two daughters.
Two of ours and
Okay.
then one with him.
Okay. All three girls.
Yeah.
Okay. So with your girls, um, you have a high expectation for how they respond to you in school, right? But also you have grace for them. They're
Yes.
children, well, the older one, but
Yeah.
they're in their process, right? They don't have the life experience you have. They're learning to navigate the world, especially the younger ones. And so this is really important because and this kind of brings up another question of like how you respond to feedback, because if making a mistake completely shuts you down, which it's easy to do, of like you go into this like, I'm so bad, all of this, then you're more likely to make more mistakes and
Right.
lose more sleep and all the things that are going to like continue that cycle, right?
Right.
Where the opposite is also true. Where if you can say, okay, lay it on me. Okay, so next time I need to do it this way. Do I have that right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. We can move on.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's the second part is how I generally respond. Okay, what did I do that I can do differently? Because
Yeah.
I take the criticism as a constructive way to better myself.
Better. Yeah. Good. Um, I had mentioned this is definitely a working independently as well as with people. So it's good for the people that are kind of in between where it's like, I like to be alone sometimes and just crank through stuff, but also I'm good with people and like to build relationships and connect. Um, Talk to me about, I mentioned this a little bit at the beginning, but there will be times um, where you'll have 100 tasks to do, and that alone can be very overwhelming. Probably not quite 100. I'm being a little bit facetious, but tell me how you look at that. Because, like, I don't know if you're like a list maker, but sometimes I'll make a list and it's so long that it's like no superwoman could do it in a day. So how do you look at that overwhelming list and where do you start? Talk to me about that.
So I generally will go, okay, on this list, when is what due by when? And let's say some of them are due by 2 o'clock. Okay, it's moved up into this area. I break it up into sections. So it doesn't feel as overwhelming knowing there's 100 tasks, but I've got this to get done by this time. So let's go ahead and get these knocked out. Then I can go on to the next time frame and work my way through it that way.
Yep, good. Yeah, and this is really key too, because if you're like this is like super obvious, but you don't want to be working on something for next week when you have a client about to walk through the door to pick something up.
Right.
So we'll get into that a little bit more in a minute. I want to give you some more information about like kind of the current situation. So we'll get to that. Um, let's see. If you were to get this position, Natalie, tell me what you would want things to look like in, let's say, like a year. Like you're trained, you're comfortable in the position. What would be your sort of goals? And these can be specific or just generally speaking. What would you want things to look like?
I would like to be able to run things as smooth as possible without having to constantly ask you questions about things that aren't necessary. And maybe even at some point offer up some suggestions for seminars and what like things like that that can help to bring in more patients for the office. I already have things in my mind that I'm like, well, that would be cool. I wonder if
Yeah.
she does that.
Yeah.
So, just being able to have good, solid input to make things run smoother and give, um, you know, options for maybe suggesting.
Yeah, perfect. Now I think I had mentioned I want somebody who will be here. I'm not expecting to sign your life away forever, but not somebody who's, you know, put their toe in the water and leave.
Mhm.
Part of that, as I mentioned, I think the learning curve, it takes a while to get good at this job. So tell me from what you can tell so far, what would make you leave this position?
Mhm. Takes a
And
lot for me to really. I'm a loyal type person, so it's really hard for me. Like if there was something, it would have to be something emergent with my family, to be honest with you. It would have to be something family related. If I didn't feel a job was a good fit for me, I wouldn't really want to take the job.
got it.
And there are a lot of things about this position in and of itself that really is bringing me back to the core of what I love. And so I don't see that being an issue at all.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, it's good. I always ask that. Most people have a similar answer where they're like, trust me, I wouldn't be moving forward if I thought there was something like that. But I do like to ask because as I have said, like this is like, most jobs you can give 2 weeks notice. Although I can't keep you from only giving 2 weeks notice. It takes me a couple months, 2, 3 months to fill this position. So it's definitely something that I'm always thinking like, okay, if you're even thinking about leaving, let me know kind of thing.
Right.
And I know I said this is a little bit of a high pressure position in that I don't have a backup. So it is my intention to remedy that at some point soon, but my immediate need is to fill this position, get somebody solid and trained. What would be like your backup plan if there's an emergency? Let's say you go to leave and you have a flat tire, for example.
Holy milk. Luckily, I keep a spare in my truck, so I don't have issues changing tires there. Um,
Wait,
I
wait,
mean, I
you
don't.
know how to change a tire?
I do. My dad taught me a lot of things to make sure I was very independent.
I love it. Oh, that's funny. Okay, keep going.
I have daycare, so really that's not, my daughter she'll be in daycare. If there's a sick issue or my husband, I mean, I've already told him, they're like, if it comes to family, take a flex day. So I don't think that's going to be a problem. We're
Okay.
pretty good about balancing each other out there.
Good. Yeah, and please know if there's a true emergency, there's an emergency. Like I sometimes there is something that comes up that you can't help, but I do like because of the nature of our position where it's like that means shutting the clinic down, it
Yeah,
is definitely a last resort.
right.
So that's good. Um, and this is really key too, because what I really am looking for once you master the position, that's like number one, is having, like I said, like a part-time, assistant for yourself, whether that's somebody who is virtual or maybe they come in 1 day a week or something like that. Because I'm a big fan of like, you're going to do better if you're doing the things you love the most. So
Hmm.
at first, I think it's really key to get the job down and you got to do everything. What like you need to learn the job. And even for me, like there's parts of what I do that I love, and there's parts that I am okay with, and there's parts that I don't love so much. But eventually, I want to make it so the parts you don't love, you're not spending much time on.
Okay.
This is kind of down the road, but I like to sort of cast that vision so people have, kind of an idea of like there is sort of some room for growth. And what does that depend on? Essentially, that depends on you learning the job as quickly as possible and then getting really stable and growing so that we can easily bring someone on in that position. Um, so Natalie, I want to talk about uh in looking at your resume, there's what like a lot of your what you've been doing, how do I want to say, being in more of like an office setting, like a professional environment, how do you feel you do in that sort of transition? Not that what you're doing now is like unprofessional, but obviously there
No, it's
it's a
different.
different clientele.
Yeah.
You're not client facing with people that are paying cash for a high-end service.
Hmm.
Talk to me a little bit about that.
So,
Professionalism, what that looks like for you, how you feel like you do there, kind of thing.
I did work at Kellogg for a while there in the human resources, so it wasn't really client facing, but working with others, being able to communicate well with them in a professional way, respectfully. I mean, that's huge to me is having respect for the person you're speaking to or dealing with. Making sure that everything is being done on time. But as far as like the interactions with the patients, it's the same. I want to treat everyone with the level of respect that they deserve. Even if I'm being disrespected, I just wait it out for a second and then, okay, well, here's what we need to do.
Yeah.
So I, I don't think there's an issue as far as like being able to work in an office space.
Yeah. I don't suspect either. I like to, there's a couple things that probably, I hate to say this, but probably because you're not 20, this doesn't apply. But I've had a couple, one of my I think the gal that I talked about in the video, one of my best people ever, she was 21 when I hired her. So I'm not against young people, but I like the professional setting, like some people take for granted what it means. You probably know in terms of like, professional, like business casual, no bra straps hanging out, no underwear showing. Like, I
Right.
almost feel bad even talking to most people about it because most people are like, well, yeah, of course. But some people don't understand that. So, but even professional languaging, one of the things, I'll kind of get into this now. The situation that I'm in right now, I hired the girl that's working with me now. She started in December, and full disclosure, I absolutely love her. She's hardworking, she's very teachable, she's super sweet, she's fun, she's super positive. When you meet her, you'll love her. But very unpolished, poor communication. And I've worked with her a lot on it, and it's just not working. Now, if this tells you anything about her, she's like willing to like stick with me until I find someone. And
Mhm.
so in exchange, I'm like, I'm going to stick with you. I'm going to keep training you, and I'm going to actually even help her find a job. Um,
Wow.
but like personally, I love her. Professionally, she's not. This is why, like, this is a question I've not in the past asked very often. But I'll just give you like, there's a lot of things where I'll tell her something and she'll be like, got it. And then she'll do the total opposite. And there's no ill intention. It's like just like kind of
Didn't click.
see, yeah. Or from a professional standpoint, her like English and grammar is not good. The way she pronounces, I hate to even say this because it sounds awful, and I'm not trying to be mean, but she'll say like I didn't seen it, like things that like
Um,
yeah, it's just I mean I just adore her, but I've worked with her on this a lot and she's aware of it and she's trying to work on it, but that's why I'm looking.
yeah.
So it's a little bit of a sensitive like situation in that I'm not firing somebody. I have tried and tried and tried to like make it work. But she's this is where this professionalism question is coming.
Absolutely. Well,
So
how they're the forefront usually, so they're representing you. You want that to be something that comes off as intelligent, well put together. You know what
yeah.
I mean?
Yeah,
Mhm.
and it's really key because for me, professionalism is like this really beautiful balance of like high-end professional, but also be real.
Mhm.
We're not uppity, we're honest, we're loving. Loving isn't, when you think about like corporate, like you don't think of loving.
Not
Um,
usually.
but you do think of like corporate as professional. And so I'm like, I want to keep the professionalism, but still have the warmth.
Yes.
It's not uncommon. I mean, this is not required and we don't do this with everybody, but it's not uncommon to hug some of our clients and you build that relationship where like they walk in and you're like, "How did the thing go with your dog?" Like you know what's going on with everybody's kids and she's actually good at that. She loves like the relationship part of things. But it is the professionalism piece is really key. And part of the thing, part of why that is professionalism builds trust. So if you call in and you're like, this has happened before, you call in and you're like, I'm having this like the worst vaginal itching I've ever had. And the person is weird about it, or they get to the end of the call and they're like, okay, and what did you want to be seen for? And you're like, I just told you, right? And this is where again, no ill intention,
No.
right? But if I'm calling with something like that and I tell you about it, and it was hard for me to tell you about it the first time, and now you just made it so I have to say it again,
Mm-hmm.
that you're making it awkward for me.
Mm-hmm.
And this is with the very best of intention, sort of a violation of our core value to keep a safe space,
Right.
right? Part of keeping it really safe is, and here's the thing. We all make mistakes. You had a little brain freeze. Okay, let's say that happens. And they say it again, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry you had to say that. I did remember that. I just had a little, like you gotta just like roll with it.
Mm-hmm.
But also it's important to like be sharp and like have that professionalism because people trust you. Plus, the other thing is there's two things that they're coming at you with. One is their personal health which by the way is connected to a lot of other personal things. I think I
Mm-hmm.
mentioned in the video, somebody will come in with headaches, and I start asking about stress, and next thing you know, they're telling me about an abortion they've had, a sticky divorce they've gone through, some abuse they had as a child. So this like these like we're getting very personal with these people.
Right.
But then the other thing that's really personal for people is their money, right? There's a lot of when somebody's handing you $1,000 for everything, their appointment and their supplements and whatever, they're expecting you to be sharp and with it and clear and a good communicator.
Exactly. Otherwise, they're going to wonder what you're doing with their money.
Yeah. And can I trust you? Did you total it right? Like, like this is like really important. So that's a key thing for me. The other thing I just always like to mention, this isn't so much a professionalism thing. This is more of a holistic health clinic thing. We are a scent-free clinic, so no, like I don't know. Some people, I don't use any of this stuff, and I'm used to it. But a lot of people use lots of lotions and hairsprays and shampoo and conditioner that are scented. Um,
Hmm.
and I don't, if they're mildly scented with essential oils, even that sometimes will bother people. But like sometimes I have one client, for example, who comes in, she works at a hair salon. So she's like the toxic like hair sprays and stuff.
Yeah.
And of course, I love her. She's great. We're going to continue to support her, but we don't like some of the clients are really sensitive to that. So I try to be careful about that. I always give people a heads up on that one because I never really want to talk to you about how you smell. And it's not bad. It's just like synthetic. It's not like stinky. But I always am like, don't put me in that position, but I will if I have to.
Right.
And
Right.
I have done that before where it's like, hey, nothing personal, but like I think it's your shampoo, but like the minute you walk in, the whole clinic smells like it. Like we can't have that.
Right. That's very common though, because my mother is like that. And my uncle has COPD. So
Yeah.
just little things, even if it's just like something in your deodorant you
Yep.
wouldn't normally think about.
Yep.
So I get it.
Yeah. Let's see. Okay, I want to give you a turn. Any questions that you come up with or sticky points or I'm not sure about or tell me more about any of that?
Well,
Do it.
sort of. I mean, hours and overtime. I got the hours part, but if there's overtime needed for whatever reason, generally, I'm assuming that's not a common thing to have overtime. But if it is needed, how do you address that? Do I reach out to you or?
Okay, so this is a great question, and I'm glad these are the kind of questions I'm glad you're asking because I always like to deal with this on the front end. You're on salary. So you're
Mm-hmm.
not overtime because you're not hourly.
Mm-hmm.
So like technically you could argue the whole client week is overtime, but that's like it's all within the salaried position.
Mm-hmm.
So what I can say is, and I may have mentioned this, but like the regular office hours, almost always, I'm going to say 80+% of the time, you can get things done in that amount of time.
Okay.
So it occasionally you might have to stay after a few minutes, or occasionally there might be like if we're doing I've mentioned the virtual detox program. That usually is like a weeknight, 4 weeks in a row, like maybe 4 Tuesday nights in a row or something like that. Now, most of my staff actually really loves that because you're getting to participate in it as well as help run it. But essentially, there's kind of like a double-edged sword, and I've really played with like the best way to do this, but I like the salary version the best
Mm-hmm.
because neither one of us need to track, and there doesn't need to be like, oh shoot, I forgot to punch in, and you can count on even if there's a holiday in that week, your pay isn't docked. It's not like, oh, Labor Day is Monday, so I didn't work, so I don't get paid. So I
Right.
feel like it kind of works out. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely does. That's why I was just wasn't sure if like, okay, I didn't quite get this done. Do you care if I stay later and finish
Yeah.
up? Okay.
Yeah, no, it's more an issue of like get the job done. And here, honestly, here's my hope. My hope is that you're so efficient that you can get everything done every day and be like, okay, what else? Throw something else at me. Let's throw
Yeah.
this thing.
Yeah.
I have had that in the past, but it's been a while. This current person I'm with, like, and what I started to say to Natalie with her is I've spent so much time with her, like more than anybody ever, to the point that I'm not able to spend the time on like my stuff that I want to be spending on. So yeah, I mean, like I may have given this example, but I was putting out 2 or 3 blogs a month. I've done one in the last 8 months because
Mm,
I'm like constantly like she's not allowed to even send an email that I don't look at. Because there's so much like grammatical stuff and communication that's just unclear. Like a lot of clients have been confused, and they all love her as a person. She's super sweet. There's no ill intention, but
mm.
a confused buyer never buys. So
Well, yeah. And for you, it's costing you more time, which is in turn costing you more money. So that's
totally,
not
totally.
ideal.
And this ties in with what we were just talking about the hours and stuff, is things that were taking my previous staff 20 minutes might take her an hour and a half. So that's costing me money and time and money and time as well.
Yeah.
So, part of it is, there's the initial like getting trained, but then there's like the getting really efficient.
Hmm.
So that it's something that, and here's the thing, I don't want to, I want to be careful how I say this. I would expect it to take longer when you're new.
Hmm.
So don't feel bad if if we move forward and something that should take you 30 minutes takes you 45 or 60 for the first couple times. But
Hmm.
6 months in, like that task should be taking you
Know it.
15. Yeah, well-oiled machine.
Yes.
Um, and so I think that's where, so going back to your question, that kind of like evens out with like the random holidays. You're getting the paid the same as you would on any other month. So it's basically like we actually pay once a month, which is a little bit weird for people, but you get used to it, and it's the same every month because
How my husband gets paid, so we get
that's how
it.
he gets paid.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Most people are like, "Oh my gosh, like I've never had that before." So, okay, that's good. You understand.
Yeah. Then
Your,
you're
so I said your salary is the same with the exception of if you do go out and do any sales, if you have commissions, then obviously that'll make it go up.
okay.
Yeah.
Dress code. I think you kind of touched on it, but I wanted to make sure professional dress code. So, the no t-shirts, no jeans, things like that. Tennis shoes, office shoes, what are your,
Yeah, business casual. So this is going to be like, it does not need to be dresses and suits. Although I have some like casual dresses I wear sometimes. Dress shoes or boots, like dressy boots. I don't care if they're like dress shoes that show your toes, but no like flip-flops things like that. And don't feel bad. Always, if you're not sure, ask. Because there's a lot of things that don't feel weird about it either. Because there's some things that you're like, you probably have some pieces. I do too, where it's like, if you wear this shirt with jeans, it's casual. If you wear it with dress pants, it's dressy. Like
Yes.
there's something where you're not sure. I'm happy to take a look.
Okay.
But I would always say err on the side of dressing up versus down. Yeah, no jeans, no t-shirts, no flip-flops, no.
Basically what you wear to church.
Yeah, yeah. Well, most people, everyone wears
Yeah.
to church these days.
Yeah, I have noticed that more so, especially at our church. So,
Yeah. Where do you go?
Valley Family Church.
Oh, nice. I
Yeah.
did, it's been a while. It was probably like mm, maybe 5 or 6 years ago. I did they did like a woman's expo there. Have you been there for a long time?
I've been
Okay.
to that. So
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, so they did a women's expo and it was like there were speakers and there were vendors and I was a vendor at it. It was really cool and that's a good church. I have
Mhm.
a few clients that go there. So yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, bigger
Um,
churches for sure though. You get the like super dressed up, the older couple in the tie and the dress, and then you get the like jeans and
yes, it's
sweatpants.
very both sides of the spectrum.
Anything
So,
goes.
yeah. As far as your communications with your patients or between, well, mostly with the patients, do you use an app? Is it direct communication? Yeah, I assume phone and email, but do you have like an app that they go into too?
No, I'm communicating with everybody through you.
Okay.
You are the gatekeeper. If they have a question, they call or email you. Nobody gets to me.
Okay.
That's your job.
And
Um,
that's why I wasn't sure if you had like one setup that they can go in and type up a question and then it comes through this app and I can respond or get the answer from you.
that is not out of the question down the road, but right now it's typically email. Um, email is probably email's probably number one. Some people text, it's like if it's a shorter question, and then some people will just call. But the reason it goes through you is as you get more and more trained, you'll know a lot of the answers and you won't even have to ask me. Um,
Perfect.
always err on the side of asking me if you're not 1,000% sure. My best staff is always going to send me texts like, I'm pretty sure this is the answer, but here was the question. Here's what I was going to say. Do I have this right? And I actually really love that because then you're kind of testing yourself where I'm like, yes, this part is right, but also add this. Or yeah, you got it.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, typically if people have questions, they're reaching out to you. And then if you don't know the answer, which at first you won't know any of the answers, after a while you'll get it a little more, but then you'll get with me and we'll get back to them. You'll get
Okay.
back to them. Yeah.
Perfect.
Mhm.
How long, and this is probably just for kind of a standard, what do you think the skills training window is?
Okay, so um I'm gonna say 2 months is probably a minimum. But it's a little bit hard to judge because I've had people take more and less. Actually, not less. That's probably the about the fastest. I had one person take a little bit less, but it was before it was a full-time job, so there wasn't quite as much to learn. So at least a couple months. But this is also a little bit of it's a great question, but a little bit of a hard question because it also depends on like you can probably learn the basics in 4 to 6 weeks. But to get like
Oh,
really solid, you're talking 2 to 3 months. To be like the best ever, a little bit longer. Like, there's going to be a cycle of that. There's certain things you're going to see every day, like that'll come up, client questions come in or like scheduling. You'll get good at that really fast. But there will be certain things that, like, for example, we have certain things we do at the end of every month. Well, you're only going to see that once a month. So
true.
something like that might take you 3 or 4 months to really, it's not super hard stuff, but that might take a little bit longer versus something that you're seeing every day. And then same with like the whole world looks different on a client week. Um, and so that is another thing. Like you're only going to see that 1 week a month, so it might take a couple months before you're feeling like well-oiled machine. But I would say. I would plan on at least a couple months before you feel like you can like you're kind of like got the system down, you know. There will be some things you'll get faster than that and some things that will be take a little bit longer.
Depending on how I learn, I guess,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Um,
and also everybody like some people, it's kind of funny. The gal that I have now, so rough with communication, but doing the month end stuff is a lot of like it's very light accounting, but it's like accounting and math type stuff. She loves it and she's great at it. So she picked up everybody else is like, oh, I hate this stuff. I think they just get nervous because it's like they're dealing with my money, you know?
right.
And like the first time she did that, she was like, that was fun. And I'm like, okay, you know? So it just kind of like everybody's wired a little bit different for the parts
Yeah.
that they love and the parts that they don't love so much.
I mean, it makes sense. My husband's the math whiz and does numbers, and then I'm over here and I'm usually fine tuning everything that's written out and making
Yeah.
sure everything's in its place.
Yeah. Yeah. Same. I'm not a math person.
I'll do it, but I'm constantly rechecking that just to be sure. I
Yeah.
usually do 2 to 3 checks before I'm like, okay, it's good.
I think I got it. Yeah. What else?
Um, Standard script or cursive, because some places would prefer no cursive because there's a lot of people these days that can't
Hmm. This is a great
read
question.
it. So I
Yeah.
always ask what your preference is.
Yep. Um, so I would say 95% of your correspondence will be over email or text. So I don't really care what if you're writing something. I'm not super picky as long as the person can understand it. But as I think about it, there's very little writing. Um,
Okay.
the one ex like I mean, I send handwritten notes. You'll be doing a little bit of that as you feel led. But when I do that, let me think. I almost always use cursive unless I'm writing it to a child. If I have one of my little ones, then I print, you know, I write it really big and print. But yeah, otherwise, yeah, either way is fine.
You gotta check these days because I've had people look at my writing and they're like, I don't know what that says.
Oh my gosh, I know. I've heard that. That's scary. A little scary.
I guess now that answers one of my other ones was what your age group window is. So you do young children, even as far as
Yes.
infants.
Yep, yep. So I have seen infant through elderly. I would say probably the majority of my clients are probably 30 to 65. It used to be a little bit older, but I've gotten more and more, and I think this is so great. More and more younger people are like, this conventional way of living is not working. So more and more people are like starting to like invest in their health and do things more naturally, which is
I love
great.
that.
Yeah.
Yes. Good, good, good. Payments that you take in, cash card, you use any like Cash App, Venmo, or any of that?
I don't. That's another thing I'm not totally opposed to looking at. But this is okay. So the answer is no, I don't. It's cash, credit, or check. Um, and I'm like, so that is a great example of something that I haven't had the bandwidth to get my head around, and my current staff has not, like, she doesn't have the bandwidth. But I'm that's a great thing to look into and to be able to go like, hey, are we going to save a percent of interest by using Venmo as opposed to something else?
Mhm.
So yes, that could definitely be on a back burner list, but no, cash, check, or credit.
Do you use red light therapy or sauna for your treatments?
Um, I I recommend them, but I don't actually have them in the clinic.
Okay.
Mhm.
Do you have someone that like, I'm sure you've like recommended some sort of massage therapy or things like that to people, I would assume. Do you have a specific person that you're using or that you send them to that you
Um,
with?
I yeah, I had someone that I really liked that did myofascial release in Schoolcraft, and he's so booked he can never get anybody in. So that's actually something I'm kind of looking for right now. But the way we do it, and this just by way of example, I don't think I talked about this in the video, but if, let's say, for example, you know a really good massage therapist, either you already know them or you meet them, you find them, whatever. The first thing you're going to do is, if you don't already know this, meet with them and make sure that we complement but don't compete. In other
Hmm.
words, we're a good fit, but we're not doing the same thing. So if you have a massage therapist that does holistic health consultations and muscle testing and mud packing and they sell supplements, that's probably not a good person for me. Yeah. But if you're like, no, maybe they have a couple supplements, but ultimately they just do massage therapy. Okay, this
Hmm.
is a really great fit. Typically, what will happen is you'll vet them. If you get the yes, then they meet me. If I get the yes, then I start referring them and they start referring us. And we want
Okay.
really mutual, like I've had this before where I'm referring them, but they're not referring me, or the other way around. I really want somebody that, like, ideally,
Can
that is
go both ways.
yes. I'm not a taker, but I also don't want to give and give and give and not have them giving back, right?
Right.
Now, some people do that. Most of the time when that happens, there's not an ill intention. They're just like not like I have a personal trainer that I refer to, and I love this guy, but he's just a horrible business guy. He's a great person and a good trainer, but he never thinks about like promoting
Yeah.
me or anybody else. And
Yeah.
so, like, to be honest, I would totally be open to finding another personal trainer because of that. Like, I've been working with him for a while. I love him. My clients love him, but I'd love somebody to reciprocate, you know?
Yeah. Makes
So,
a
but
big difference.
what I want to share with you though is if you find this massage therapist, you let's say they send us one person a month, you get commission on everyone they send us. So it's
Oh.
not just the massage therapist. This is like, I call it an egg versus a chicken. So an egg
Mhm.
is like you refer your mom, she comes in for an appointment. Great. I love to help your mom, but she doesn't refer anybody. A
Mm.
chicken is like you get a massage therapist and everyone they send to me, you get commission on as long
Oh,
as you,
nice.
yeah. So if you think about it that way, you go out and get, I mean, honestly, a couple chickens a year could really change your income.
Absolutely.
And I'm very big
You
on,
might know a few chickens.
yeah, good. This is not, how would I say, this can't be the first priority. Like before you're promoting, I want you to know what you're promoting, right?
Yeah.
I want you to really dig deep and understand what we do and all that. Um,
Hmm.
but once we get through, I always say like, let's get through the first 6 to 8 weeks. So you're like because otherwise, if you try to start promoting it, you're gonna kind of fumble because someone's gonna ask you a question. You're like, I don't know, and it's a question you probably should know, but you just don't know yet. But once we get to that point, we'll have a meeting all about this, and I'm happy to help you. Like I will help you help me bring people in. But you get the account if it's somebody you bring in. So I have my part-time person, Michelle. She went to this networking event and met somebody who came in. That person referred her mom, her sister, her brother-in-law, and a friend. And Michelle got commission on not only the original person, but the four that she referred. So I'm really big on like sharing the wealth when you're helping grow the business. Like to me,
Absolutely.
that's just the right thing. And it's like, yeah, if you're going to work hard to bring people in, that's how you get paid on doing the extra.
Hmm.
Yeah. What else?
Um, so EMF cell phone use, because I know that there are devices within the office, so I'm curious to know where your stance with that. Where do you, because at our job currently, we are not to have cell phones, but it's more of a data breach issue with privacy and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, but from a holistic standpoint, how do you feel about those
Right.
devices?
So the work phone is actually an iPhone.
Oh,
And it's remediated. And so the EMFs are blocked. We have a device that we put on it. Same with your work computer, same with the whole building, same with my phone, my computer. So we've got
perfect.
everything remediated. I will say your own personal cell phone. Um, Here's how I'll say this. I would like it to be out of sight, like in
Hmm.
first in the back room kind of thing. If you need to like pop in and check something for a couple minutes, I'm not like crazy about that. If like I just don't want people like conversing all day, have it sitting on the desk so every time you get a notification, you're distracted
Yeah,
from your job. Um, yeah, I to me that's like professional courtesy. Like
absolutely.
I'm not going to be posting on social media while I'm supposed to be at work, things like that. But if you need to like check it a couple times quick or something, not a big deal.
I kind of figured as much. And my phone, I mean, it's usually put away, and the only people that are ringing through is my husband or daughters, and that's
Yeah.
emergencies usually.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
um, what else did I have on here? Those were all my questions. I feel like I had quite a few, but really, oh wait, I did have one more. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Do you ever take emergency calls? Like if for some reason a client something comes up and it's an emergency, you're not necessarily going to be available, or how do you handle those type of?
Okay, so our people are pretty well trained that if it's a true emergency, they need to go to ER.
Mhm. Okay.
And most people get that. Occasionally, I have a few people that so don't want to go to the medical facility that they'll just about bleed out. And I'm like, look, I'm not an emergency medical doctor. And
Right,
if I'm not in town, I can't stitch you over the internet, you know?
right, right.
Um, so typically, if it's a true emergency, I'm telling people go to ER. Like, we'll clean up the mess afterwards. Make sure you're safe.
Yes.
I have occasionally, if somebody like if I have availability and someone's like really wants to talk to me, I can do virtual consultations. Um, I'm not opposed to doing them, and I do them occasionally, but I can't test people through that. If they have a quick question, they go through you. But if they want to like get into a lot of details and something's happened, the answer is always going to be like, I would really have to test you to know exactly what to do.
Okay.
Yeah,
That answers. That's perfect. So I think I got everything that I was curious about.
good. How are you feeling?
Good, really good. I'm actually more excited than I was before. And
Okay,
the more I talk about it, it's just like it just lines up really well with what
excellent.
I want.
Is there anything that is in your head right now? And if there is, you'll know right away that you're like, I don't know if I should ask this. Is there anything like that?
I do have one thing
Thank
going
you.
on that
Thank you
I
for
was
being
like,
honest and say it. Hit it.
we, every 3 years, we get together with my family in Florida. So my entire family is coming from all over the US to meet in December.
Okay.
So I don't know if that's going to be an issue because we'll be gone the 22nd to the 29th.
You already know the dates, and that's no problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's we already had the flight set, and I'm like, I can cancel it if it's a problem.
No problem. So, okay, so I'll just say, holidays, it kind of depends on what it is, like where it falls. Like obviously, like Labor Day, Memorial Day, we're just closed. So those you can count on. And then well, actually, this will be good. I want to talk about this a little bit. So with vacation, it's very helpful if you can to like put it over a long weekend where we already have time off. Or like, I can't remember what it was this year, but last year the 4th of July was on, I think, Thursday. So we were off Thursday through Sunday, you know. So like if you can put vacations in there, like those kind of times, that's great. But if it's something like this where you have lots of notice and we have the dates, like that's no problem. Typically over Christmas, we usually our hours are a little bit more limited anyway.
Okay.
So yeah, that's fine. The only thing I was going to say is if it's in the middle of the month, typically the client week, that's the big time is like we can't miss the client week. Um,
Yes.
so if you were like it's going to be like the 3rd through the 20th, I would be like, ugh, that
No.
but yeah, as long as it's closer to Christmas, yeah, no worries.
Okay. Yeah, I was really nervous about that one, but I was like, you know what? If I'm offered the job, this is long term for me, so I can make it work another time down the road.
Okay, good. I'm glad we talked about that because I'll tell you to be really transparent, when people don't have questions, I get concerned. So I appreciate that you had questions ready and thought through, and also that you were honest when I'm like, is there any little thing in the back of your mind? Because I'm sure you feel better, and I feel
I
better
do.
if you were honest if you were just like, yes, not that I would have assumed you weren't honest if you said no, but is there anything else?
No, that was everything that I had, everything that I was concerned about. I feel
Okay.
comfortable. You're easy to talk to. I'm excited to meet. If I get the opportunity, I'm excited to meet the other ladies. So,
Excellent. Okay, good. So, well, I want to say you did a good job. I know this interview is a little tougher. You did great navigating the random questions and you know, just part of this too, Natalie, for me, I'm part of it's like, can we have hard conversations? Can we have
Mm,
a conversation about what does it look like to be professional if you haven't been in that setting? And
right.
yes, we can. So that's good. So here's next steps. Details are important. So this is, I want to be really clear. If you can in the next 24 hours, and it can be if you're 100% sure you can do this right now, but I want an email all in or not. I'm assuming yes, but if not, let me know that too. I would like 4 to 5 references,
Okay.
including emails, at least one past employer if possible, just no friends or family. And the
Okay.
reason I want 4 to 5 is because almost always, no matter how much your references love you, one or two of them won't respond. So I always like to hear from at least a few of them. And I will be reaching out. So if there's anybody like at your current job, for example, that you don't want me to reach out to, then don't put them down. Most people are like, I don't want my current job to know. I'm like, yeah, I totally get that. Then don't put them on your list.
Right.
And then so include name, email, phone number, and just give me like a little bit of like their title or how you know them. So you could say like previous employer at XYZ or, manager at wherever you worked before or whatever. And then salary requirements, assuming within the range we've talked about, but just what your thoughts are there. And then I want your availability for the week of August 4th, so next week, to come in and shadow for a few hours. Um, and if you can just give me like, it doesn't have to be exact times, just give me like Monday morning, anytime Tuesday, Wednesday after 3, give me some like bunches of
Okay.
slots.
Okay.
Um, and then let's see, references, salary requirements. And then, well, I'll just ask you this piece. I'm assuming you'll need 2 weeks, give 2 weeks notice.
Mhm.
Yeah, which is totally fine. Um, and I think that's all. We'll go from there.
Great. I will get that put together and I can send that over. I gotta make sure that my references will be okay with having them. So
Yeah, I was
I
gonna say if you
a
can,
minute on that one.
yeah, give your references a little nudge of like, hey, because here's what's happened. When you say, can I use you as a reference? Everyone's gonna say yes. And then you're
Yeah,
like, will you actually respond?
that's where I'm making sure.
Like just lay it on thick. Just say, look, I really this is something I want. I need you to like get back to her if she reaches out.
Exactly.
So yeah, I mean, if you can do that in the next 24 hours, that would be great. So just give them a nudge if you can. Um, name, email,
Title, phone number, location.
you got it.
I got it.
Awesome. All right. Very
Okay.
good. So glad we could meet again, and
Yes.
I will look forward to hearing from you soon.
Sounds good. Have a great day.
Thanks, Natalie.
Great. Bye bye.